Afternoon, everyone. It's a first alert weather day and some severe weather could be moving into our neck of the woods this evening. Let's get straight to Chief Meteorologist Hutch Johnson with the latest. Hutch.
Thanks, Stacy, and a good Monday afternoon, everyone. As we close out our day, it's sizzling hot again. Now, we did have some morning showers, but most of our severe weather that we were anticipating stayed well to our south, leaving us with fairly quiet conditions and just a little bit of rain. Some of us did get some wind damage out there in the Mahnomen area from the morning round of storms. However, late night storms again a likelihood tonight, and as we do have them make their way in, hail, damaging wind, and isolated tornadoes will be the main threat. Let me show you the area of concern. First and foremost, what about these threats? High winds, the #1 risk tonight. Some large hail from these cells as well. Even overnight, we cannot rule out tornadoes, but that wind will be the main threat. Look at these temperatures, still kissing 90 degrees for many of us as we go into the afternoon. Things not even starting yet. This is a late evening event. Stacy, here's the area of concern. Our western counties and northwest portions of Minnesota. The storms will fire mainly after 8 o'clock all the way into your morning. That is why First Alert Weather Day has been scheduled for today into Tuesday. Tuesday morning will bring the threats, not the afternoon. I'll have details in your hour-by-hour forecast here in just a couple of moments.
All right, thanks so much, Hutch. A 6-year-old is fighting for their life after a reported drowning. That happened on Saturday at a Holiday Inn in Alexandria. When responders arrived, the child had been pulled out of a pool and CPR had started. At last update, that child was in critical condition. A student pilot suffered minor injuries after his plane crashed shortly after leaving the Minot International Airport yesterday. North Dakota Highway Patrol says 24-year-old Jonas Nava was not able to get his aircraft fully in the air. It crashed on the runway. The plane was heavily damaged. That crash is being investigated by the FAA. New information now on a fatal crash in New York Mills Friday morning. Police say 47-year-old Tracy Frost was pronounced dead at the scene. Police received a 911 call of the crash involving 2 vehicles with 1 driver in each. Police say alcohol and drugs do not appear to be a factor. 1 woman is hurt following a crash with a semi this morning. Minnesota State Patrol says that happened at the intersection of County Road 17 and Highway 2 near East Grand Forks. The report says 54-year-old Robin Roska of Crookston didn't yield for a semi and hit the back of it. She was taken to Altru but is expected to be okay. The driver of the semi wasn't hurt. The man accused of shooting a woman, then leading authorities in Pelican Rapids on a 48-hour manhunt will spend at least 15 years in prison. That happened back in April. A witness told police the victim was in the kitchen cooking when 36-year-old Putasa Prathane burst through a door and started punching, kicking, and eventually shooting her. She had an active protection order out against him. He was arrested 2 days later after a high-speed chase in Redwood County. Prathane took a plea deal and was sentenced to roughly 15 years on the attempted murder charge, nearly 5 years for a felony burglary charge. 28-year-old Joseph Case of Grand Forks has been sentenced to serve 40 years in prison. He pled guilty to 3 counts of gross sexual imposition involving a child. Last June, the mother of the 8-year-old victim told investigators her daughter said Case touched her private parts. Documents say days later, Case admitted to doing so 3 separate times. He'll also have to serve 10 years probation. The House Select Committee investigating the January 6th Capitol assault kicked off the first of 3 hearings scheduled for this week. The day featured testimony from those in former President Trump's inner circle who say they told him there was no fraud in the 2020 election. Natalie Brand has more from Capitol Hill, where a former Fox News political editor also took the witness chair.
Pursued a different strategy.
The House Select Committee investigating January 6th focused Monday on what they call the big lie.
He falsely told the American people that the election was not legitimate. Millions of Americans believed him.
Multiple taped interviews showed the former president's closest aides told him he had lost the election, yet Mr. Trump continued to make false claims of election fraud.
I thought, boy, if he really believes this stuff, he has, lost contact with he's become detached from reality.
Testimony also included deposition video from former Trump campaign manager Bill Stepien, who was not able to testify in person after his wife went into labor.
I didn't think what was happening was necessarily honest or professional at that point in time. So that led to me stepping away.
The first in-person witness Monday fired Fox News political editor Chris Stirewalt. He defended the decision to call Arizona for Joe Biden ahead of other news networks.
Our poll in Arizona was beautiful, and it was doing just what we wanted it to do, and it was cooking up just right.
The second witness panel featured former officials from Georgia and Pennsylvania who also refuted the former president's claims of election fraud after they were asked to investigate.
Not only was there not evidence of 8,000 dead voters voting in Pennsylvania, there wasn't evidence of 8.
Former Philadelphia City Commissioner Al Schmidt detailed threats he received after Mr. Trump called him out by name on Twitter.
The threats became much more specific, included members of my family by name, their ages, our address, pictures of our home.
A committee investigator said the Trump campaign raised around $250 million off of false election fraud claims and misled voters as to how the funds would be used. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
The committee has 2 more planned public hearings this week. When asked today, Attorney General Merrick Garland said he's watching them, and so are the January 6th prosecutors. Police in Idaho say they prevented a possible domestic terror attack over the weekend. 31 men were arrested, all dressed alike, allegedly on their way to wreak havoc at a pride event in the city of Coeur d'Alene. They were found standing in the back of a U-Haul. Police believe they're members of a white supremacist group. Police allege the group intended to start a riot before they were taken into custody near a pride celebration on Saturday. Authorities recovered gear including shields, shin guards, and a smoke grenade. Extremist experts say the efforts of groups like this are intensifying.
Seeing this broadening out of the targets that people across this supremacist spectrum are choosing to intimidate or harass or harm. It is part of a broader range of anti-democratic and extremist types of events that are happening.
The group arrested Saturday ranged in age from 21 to 36 and were from a dozen different states. Congress might have enough support to pass the most sweeping gun control laws in 30 years. A bipartisan group of senators say they've reached a framework agreement on gun safety legislation. It happened during a weekend of large-scale marches nationwide where gun violence victims and gun control advocates demanded action. Skylar Henry has the latest from Washington, D.C.
With a bipartisan agreement in place, Senate lawmakers will now begin drafting new legislation on gun safety, with many hoping it can get done before the July recess.
We are in the process of becoming unstuck on an issue that has weighed Congress down for 30 straight years.
The agreement in principle would include financial support for states to create or administer red flag laws to temporarily remove guns from individuals deemed to be a threat, expanded investments in mental health, school safety, and enhanced background checks for gun buyers under 21. At least 10 Republican senators support the framework, which ensures it can move forward in the Senate if all 50 Democrats back the plan.
Mr. President, any comment on the gun reform deal?
President Biden said he would sign it if it comes to his desk, but the National Rifle Association warned the NRA will continue to oppose any effort to insert gun control policies that deprive law-abiding citizens of their fundamental right to protect themselves.
Gun control!
Sunday's announcement came a day after protesters gathered in several cities across the country to demand stronger gun laws. Some gun control advocates want even tougher measures, but many say the agreement is a step in the right direction. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
The House also passed a wide-ranging gun control package last week, mostly along party lines, which includes a ban on the sale of large capacity magazines and raising the minimum age to buy a semi-automatic rifle from 18 to 21. That bill has an uphill battle of gaining enough support in the Senate. In Congress, U.S. regulators are facing tough questions about a gap in plant inspections that occurred during the pandemic. Regulators typically inspect baby formula plants at least once a year, but they didn't inspect any of the 3 biggest manufacturers in 2020. That's according to federal record. When they finally did get inside an Abbott Nutrition formula plant after a 2-year gap, they found standing water and poor sanitation procedures, but inspectors didn't issue a formal warning. It wasn't until months later, after multiple infants suffered infections and several died, that they'd return. Now Congress is working on a new bill that would require the FDA to inspect infant formula facilities every 6 months. North Dakota voters head to the polls tomorrow for the state's primary election. Among the races in Fargo are mayor, city commission, and school board. On a county and district level, voters will choose a Cass County sheriff and state lawmakers. Statewide races include U.S. Senator and U.S. House of Representatives. For voting information and polling locations, click on the election tab. That's right at the top of our website, valleynewslive.com. We'll be offering all-day election coverage on Valley News Live tomorrow. And as always, you can get updates on your VNL News app. That's free in the App Store.